To this day, a man named Phil Ivey finds himself effectively exiled from the gaming floors of casinos around the entire globe. His banishment is not the result of theft, nor is it because he employed illicit electronic devices to scan the tables, nor because he hacked into the complex computer systems that guard the industry's secrets. The reason for his exclusion is far more unusual in the world of high-stakes gambling, for his only crime was winning too much money entirely within the boundaries of the law. In a stunning display of skill and observation, he secured £7.7 million in London and another $9.6 million in Atlantic City. The combined total of his winnings exceeded $21 million. Throughout this entire process, he never once physically manipulated the deck, never marked a single card with ink or scratches, never broke a solitary written statute, and ultimately, he did not get to keep a single dollar of the fortune he amassed. The casinos took him to court to reclaim their losses and emerged victorious, turning what appeared to be the perfect crime into a legal precedent that punished a player for simply being too observant. The story of this unprecedented legal battle begins in August of 2012 at Crockford's Casino in the exclusive Mayfair district of London. Crockford's is not merely a gambling hall, but an institution, one of the oldest and most exclusive clubs in the world, catering specifically to members only, a clientele that includes high-stakes players, royalty, billionaires, and global celebrities. Into this atmosphere of hushed opulence walked Phil Ivey, a figure already legendary in the realm of professional poker, holding 10 World Series of Poker bracelets and boasting a personal net worth exceeding $100 million. When he took his seat at the baccarat table, prepared to play hands at £50,000 each, the casino management saw only exactly what they wanted to see, which was a whale. In casino terminology, a whale is a high roller with deep pockets whom the house loves because, eventually, the house always wins. Over the next 48 hours, Ivey would extract £7.7 million from their vault, using a technique so subtle and clever that even the sophisticated overhead surveillance cameras would fail to detect it. He was prepared to beat the house at a game that is mathematically designed to be unbeatable. Everything he did would be completely legal, right up until the moment the casino refused to honor his chips. To understand how this feat was accomplished, one must look back 3 months earlier to May of 2012, in a hotel room in Las Vegas. There, Phil Ivey sat with a woman named Chung Yin Sun, who referred to herself simply as Kelly. Kelly was a poker player in her own right, but her true value lay in her status as an advantage player, a specific type of gambler who dedicates themselves to finding structural flaws in casino games and exploiting them for profit. In that hotel room, she presented Ivey with a specific playing card manufactured by the Jamaco brand, a standard-issue deck used in casinos worldwide. She instructed him to examine the edge of the card, but when Ivey looked, he saw nothing unusual. Kelly then rotated the card 180 degrees and pointed specifically to the diamond pattern printed on the back, noting that one edge of the design was cut wider, while the other was cut narrower. Even then, Ivey had to squint to see the imperfection, so Kelly produced a magnifying glass to reveal the truth. The manufacturing process had left a pattern on one edge that extended a mere 0.3 millimeters farther than on the other edge, a flaw invisible to the naked eye of a layman but glaringly obvious to someone who knew exactly where to look. Kelly explained that this manufacturing error allowed for a technique called edge sorting. The premise was simple, yet brilliant, in that if a player could convince the dealer to rotate certain high-value cards so that their wider edges all faced one direction, while the low-value cards faced the opposite direction, the player could read the backs of the cards before they were ever turned over. This would grant the player the godlike ability to know what card was coming before it was dealt. When Ivey, seemingly skeptical, or perhaps just practical, asked how one could possibly get a professional dealer to rotate cards at a high-stakes table, Kelly smiled and delivered the simple solution that they would just ask nicely. It is crucial to understand that Kelly Sun was not merely a casual gambler looking for a quick payout, for she possessed a dark and traumatic history that made her uniquely motivated to dismantle the casino industry. In 2007, she had been a player in the VIP gaming circles of Macau, the daughter of a wealthy Hong Kong businessman. Her life took a horrific turn when a massive gambling debt attributed to her boyfriend at the time pulled her into a dangerous situation she could not control. She was seized by private debt collectors, the type of enforcers often linked to the criminal underbelly of the Macau casino scene, and held captive for several days in brutal conditions. She was locked in a freezing concrete room with no information, no rest, and subjected to constant psychological. This experience changed her fundamentally. Upon her release, rather than fleeing the world of gambling that had caused her such pain, she resolved to master it. She trained her eyes to detect microscopic differences that the average person would never notice. Her obsessive dedication earned her the moniker Queen of Sorts in gambling circles. She transformed herself into a woman capable of spotting a fraction of a millimeter inconsistency on the back of a playing card and turning that tiny flaw into a weapon that no casino on earth was prepared to defend against. This was the formidable skill set she brought to her partnership with Phil Ivey. The rules of the game are deceptively simple, involving two hands, the player and the banker, where the goal is to get a total closest to 9, a game of pure chance with no skill involved. However, luck ceases to be a factor if a player knows the value of the cards before they are flipped. The casino manager greeted Ivy personally, eager to accommodate the requests of a high roller whose business they desperately wanted. First, he requested a dealer who spoke Mandarin, a condition Kelly preferred. Second, he asked that certain cards be rotated 180 degrees, claiming it was for luck. Third, he insisted on using an automatic shuffler, specifically one that did not rotate the cards during the shuffling mechanism. Fourth, he requested that the same deck of cards be kept in play all night and not replaced between sessions. Fifth, he asked that when cards were discarded, they should not be flipped but left in their current orientation. The management at Crockford's considered these requests and found them unusual but not unprecedented, as high rollers are known for strange habits like lucky socks or specific rituals. Given that Ivy was wagering £50,000 per hand, the casino agreed to every single condition. They assigned a Mandarin-speaking dealer, set up the specific automatic shuffler, and promised to keep the deck in play, believing they were simply indulging the quirks of a superstitious gambler with deep pockets. They had absolutely no concept of the trap that had been set for them. The operation began at 11 in the evening, with Ivy and Kelly at the table, facing a dealer who drew from an 8-deck shoe containing 416 cards. Kelly took the lead, speaking softly in Mandarin to the dealer and pointing at specific cards, asking the dealer to turn them for luck. The dealer, eager to please a VIP, complied and rotated the cards 180 degrees before returning them to the discard pile. Kelly was selective, performing this ritual only for the 7s, 8s, and 9s, which are the most valuable cards in Baccarat because they determine the wins. If the player hand receives a 7 or 8, it is a strong hand, and if the banker receives a 9, it is almost a guaranteed win. In an 8-deck shoe, there are only 128 of these key cards, representing roughly 1/3 of the deck. By controlling the orientation of these specific cards, Kelly and Ivy were effectively taking control of the entire game. The dealer suspected nothing, viewing the requests as mere superstitions similar to blowing on dice or tapping a table. Even the pit boss, watching from a distance, cared only about the size of the bets, knowing that the casino relied on volume to make money, regardless of individual wins or losses. After 2 hours of play, the deck was fully sorted. Every high-value card was oriented in one direction, while every low-value card faced the opposite way. At 1 in the morning, the real game began, as the shoe was reshuffled by the automatic machine that simply mixed the order without changing the orientation, preserving the pattern Kelly had established. Ivy could now identify the cards before they were dealt. As the dealer prepared to pull a card, Ivy would look at the back and observe the edge pattern. If he saw the wide edge facing him, he knew it was a 7, 8, or 9, a high card. According to Baccarat rules, the player draws first, so if a high card was coming, the advantage lay with the player position. Seeing the sign, Ivy would push forward chips worth £75,000 on the player hand, and when the card was flipped to reveal a 9, he would collect his winnings. Conversely, if he saw the narrow edge, indicating a low card like a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, he knew the advantage shifted to the banker. He would then switch his bet to the banker, wagering £100,000, and watch as a 4 was revealed, securing another victory. This pattern repeated itself again and again, invisible to everyone except the two conspirators. The dealer, the pit boss, and the security cameras saw nothing because, in a physical sense, nothing was happening. There were no hidden devices, no sleight of hand, and no signals, just a man placing bets and winning. By 3 in the morning, Ivy was up £1.5 million, drawing the attention of the casino manager who arrived to stand behind the pit boss. The manager questioned how long Ivy had been playing and was told he had been there for 4 hours and was up substantially. The manager frowned, wondering if it was bad luck for the house or good luck for the player, but ultimately let the game continue. Ivy was careful not to win every hand, which would have raised immediate suspicion, but he won enough, roughly 60 to 65% of the hands. In a game where the house edge is typically just over 1%, a 65% win rate is statistically impossible without foreknowledge. By 4 in the morning, Ivy's winnings had reached £2 million, prompting the manager to approach the table with a smile to congratulate him on his run. When asked if he would continue the next day, Ivy agreed, but only on the condition that he play at the same table, with the same dealer, and most importantly, with the same deck of cards. The manager hesitated, but ultimately agreed, driven by the casino axiom that whales always return and eventually lose back their winnings. The staff assured Ivy that everything would be ready for him, and the pair left Crockford's at 5 in the morning, up £2 million after the first night. The second session began on August 21st at 10 in the evening, with Ivy returning to the same table where the sorted deck awaited him. Because the cards had not been replaced, the edge pattern remained intact, with high cards facing one way and low cards the other. Ivy and Kelly sat down and began to play immediately, without needing to exchange words or signals. Ivy increased his aggression, betting £75,000, then £100,000, and eventually £125,000 per hand. The wins accumulated rapidly, with his total rising by $1.2 million in the first hour, $2.4 million in the second, and $3.8 million in the third. The casino manager's demeanor shifted from polite accommodation to deep concern as he stood at the rail watching every hand. He knew something was wrong, but could not identify the mechanism of the fraud. Security had checked for devices, phones, and mirrors, confirming that Ivy was not touching the cards and Kelly was not signaling, yet the losses continued to mount. Desperate, the manager ordered the pit boss to inspect the shoe and the cards, but the inspection revealed no tampering, no marks, and no scratches. The pit boss could only conclude that Ivy was incredibly lucky, but the manager refused to believe in luck of that magnitude. However, paralyzed by the fact that Ivy had broken no visible rules, and fearing a lawsuit if they ejected him without cause, they allowed the game to proceed. By midnight, Ivy was up a total of £5 million across both sessions, leading the manager to intervene and attempt to close the table under the pretense of a dealer shift change. Ivy checked his watch and noted it was only midnight, recognizing the casino's panic. He negotiated for one final hour of play, stating he would leave after that, and the manager, resigned to the damage already done, agreed. In that final hour from midnight to 1 in the morning, Ivy bet the maximum allowed amount of £150,000 per hand. Kelly watched the cards and directed the play, no longer needing to ask the dealer to rotate anything, as the deck was already perfectly sorted. They played the pattern mechanically, betting player on wide edges and banker on narrow edges, an unstoppable system. By 1 in the morning, Ivy's total winnings across the two nights stood at £7.7 million, which was approximately $12 million, marking the single biggest win in the 178-year history of Crockford's. Ivy stood up, shook the dealer's hand, and tipped him £10,000 before facing the casino manager. The manager, forcing a smile, congratulated him and promised that the payout would be processed, though he warned it might take a few days for verification. As Ivy and Kelly walked out into the London night, Kelly voiced her skepticism, predicting that the casino would not pay. Ivy insisted they had to pay because he hadn't cheated, but Kelly warned that they would find a reason. To which Ivy replied that he would see them in court. 2 weeks later, in September of 2012, Ivy received a letter from Crockford's stating that his winnings would not be paid. The casino claimed they had evidence he engaged in advantage play that violated the spirit of the game and declared his £7.7 million forfeited, returning only his original £1 million deposit. Ivy was incredulous, telling his lawyer that he had not cheated, but had simply used his brain. His lawyer clarified the nuance, explaining that the casino was accusing him not of cheating in the traditional sense, but of not playing fairly, a distinction that would become the crux of the legal battle. While the drama unfolded in London, a parallel story had already taken place across the Atlantic in New Jersey at the Borgata Casino. Between April and December of 2012, Ivy and Kelly ran the exact same scheme over 4 separate sessions, utilizing the same requests and edge sorting technique to win $9.6 million. Unlike Crockford's, the Borgata paid out every dollar initially. However, 6 months later, after realizing what had happened by reviewing tapes and studying the cards, the Borgata sued Phil Ivey in December of 2014 for the return of the $9.6 million plus damages. They accused him of defrauding the casino and manipulating the game. Ivey maintained his defense that he won fair and square, and that the casino should not have agreed to his requests if they didn't like the outcome. The legal battles played out on 2 continents, with over $20 million at stake. In the UK High Court in May of 2014, the case of Phil Ivey versus Crockford's hinged on the definition of cheating. Crockford's argued that Ivey had deceived them by claiming superstition while exploiting a defect. Ivey countered that he never touched the cards, and that the casino provided the defective equipment, making it their problem. The trial lasted 3 weeks, with the casino manager testifying that they only allowed the requests because they believed them to be superstitious, while Ivey testified that his requests were open and agreed upon. Experts debated whether edge sorting violated the implicit rules of Baccarat, which require randomness, while Ivey's defense argued that casinos use mathematics against players daily and only cry foul when the math is used against them. In October of 2014, the judge ruled that while Ivey was truthful and genuinely believed he had done nothing wrong, his conduct was dishonest by ordinary standards because he misled the casino about his motives. The court decided he had breached the implied terms of the game, allowing Crockford's to keep the £7.7 million. In the United States, the district court in New Jersey took a strictly rule-based approach in the Borgata case. The court was less concerned with honesty and more focused on the regulations of Baccarat, ruling that the game requires cards to be dealt randomly. By manipulating the orientation, Ivey had violated the fundamental rules of the game. The judge ruled in favor of Borgata, ordering Ivey to repay $10,130,000, which included interest. Ivey appealed but lost again, leaving him with a debt of over $10 million to the casino. To this day, he has not paid the judgment. He lost the money in London forever, yet he reportedly does not regret the attempt. Kelly's son vanished from the public eye, rumored to still be playing quietly in the shadows. Phil Ivey had engineered the perfect crime, one that was mathematical, undetectable, and legal, yet he ultimately lost because the system decided his advantage was simply too